This podcast is sponsored by Teammates, a football quiz app like no other. The app has a choice of 2 eras, modern mode and vintage mode. Link up anytime club teammates to complete lineups. When you complete a lineup, you level up. You can progress up the leagues and through the cups, earn credits and win trophies. Download Teammates on the App Store now and test your knowledge. The link is in the description below.
Hello and welcome to the Championship Playoff Preview. I'm Craig Savage. Next to me is Daniel Cody and down below is Charlie Betts. What a dramatic night on the final day of the Championship. I'll just quickly run through what happened there. West Brom joined Leeds in promotion to the Premier League. Down at the bottom, Wigan gave down. They drew by the finest margins with the 12-point deduction. Hull were relegated, finishing bottom. And then joining them was Charlton. They got spanked by Leeds. That does mean Luton Town survive.
19th?
19th! I didn't expect that.
How on earth did that happen?
Also, not just Luton Town survived, Barnsley survived as well.
Incredible.
They were in the bottom three since September, and it took them the 91st minute on the final day to get out of the relegation. So congratulations to them. And congratulations to Luton and to West Brom on their promotion. Now we're going to talk about the playoffs. Fulham were automatically, they were there. They needed, obviously, Brentford and West Brom to lose. Brentford had their chance to get into the automatics. They lost to Barnsley in the 91st minute. We just mentioned Barnsley. Joining them, Cardiff, they were easy, comfortable 3-0 win against Hull. And the fourth team, we all expected Nottingham Forest, but it's now Swansea with that 6-goal swing, which no one anticipated. They got that final goal from their own goal by a Nottingham Forest player that sends Swansea into the playoffs. And Steve Cooper looked absolutely shocked. They beat Reading 4-1. So let's get on to the drama of that playoffs. Your thoughts on Nottingham Forest slipping up? Can you, Pedro?
I'm actually annoyed with myself because I don't know if you remember, I said in the last prediction show they'll get a scare and then late on they might come back and nick it. But what actually happened is they got a scare. It seems like they found out about it and then completely collapsed, and Swansea smelt blood and went for it. So I'm so annoyed that I didn't follow through with that. That's really annoyed me. But you've got to say fair play to Swansea. And if you go into the playoffs in form, who knows?
Charlie?
Yeah, no, I think, to be honest, we mentioned even in our predictions that Swansea are in good form. Forest are in not very good form. I think I don't think they won the last 6, did they, or something like that?
No.
So a few draws. But I don't think anyone expected the goal sort of swing that happened. So, yeah, having said that, you know, it's in the politest way possible. I know it's a rejuvenated Stoke, but if you let him 4 in at home against Stoke, you probably don't deserve to be in the playoffs, with all due respect. Do you know what I mean? Like, Stoke, whatever they are, it shouldn't be putting 4 past you at home. So, in some ways, they sort of got what they deserved. But yeah, fair play to Swansea.
So, look at, obviously, next season's only, a month, 6 weeks away, probably. It's so quick, we don't realise.
I mean, who knows?
How do you think, just also, I'm going to talk about them very quickly. How do you think they're going to bounce back from that? Because their confidence is completely rocked. And the manager was lost for words. You don't know how this has happened. How do you think they will bounce back?
I mean, my only comment on it would be, based on Nottingham Forest's recent history, I'll be surprised if he's in charge on the first day of the season. And I think he should be. I still think he's the right man for the job. But I can't see it happening realistically. I think it will be a manager change.
Yeah. The thing is, as well, we've probably gone into it about other teams as well, but the sort of vultures start circling a bit for players and things like that. And, you know, whatever you think of them, they've got lads like Lewis Graben and, you know, for example, he wants to be playing in the Premier League, I imagine. You sort of gave it a good shot this year and blew it. Is he going to stay another year? I don't know, I suppose, but you start to lose those sorts of players. Do you then just end up in mid-table mediocrity for another couple of years until you build it up again? So I'd hope they'd stay, but, you know, football's like, it's a short career, isn't it, for some?
Worry for Joe Lolly too.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's move on to the team that replaced them, Swansea. They are playing Brentford in the first playoff semi-final on Sunday. Brentford confidence is rocked. They've lost their last 2 games. They expect them to win those 2 games against Stoke and Barnsley. They failed to do that. How do you think Brentford are going to cope with this?
I think, to be honest, we mentioned it in previous episodes. It's that pressure thing, and there's a few teams who've done well with it, and there's other teams that have completely crumbled on it, under it. And Brentford's definitely one of them. You know, when the pressure's off, no one gave them a hope of getting anywhere near the automatic promotion. They obviously blitzed everyone around them. the moment there was a bit of an onus on them to get a result twice, not once, twice now. Recently, they've I'm not going to say bottled it. I don't really like using that word about teams, but they just didn't perform as well as they could have done. When you talk about, you don't get much more pressure than the playoffs for getting into the Premier League. So, as with that in mind, I don't know honestly. Psychologically, it's going to hit them hard. I think losing to Barnsley.
And it makes it even more unpredictable to predict, doesn't it? I mean, the thing, obviously, I was watching the Luton game like you probably, Craig, but the Brentford game was on the free Sky channel, so I had that on as well, watching it. And, I mean, I was saying it to you boys throughout the night. How are they playing this badly? This is absolutely woeful. And, yes, you can put it down to pressure, but there's not much more pressure than a playoff semi-final. So I worried for them watching that because, obviously, that's one of the first times I'd seen them this year, bar against Luton, where they were scintillating. And seeing them perform that way under pressure really worried me, considering I predicted them at the start of the season to go up in the playoffs.
Charlie, you've got mates that are Brentford fans. How were they during that 90 minutes? Do you know?
Well, to be honest, there's two ways of looking at it from their perspective. On the one hand, it was an opportunity lost. On the other hand, if you'd have said 9 games ago that they'd have been that close to getting automatic promotion, they'd have snapped your arm off. So I think it's the form thing that worries them. What I would say is, and I spoke to my mate who's a Brentford fan about this. If they don't go up now, they'll be nowhere near it next year because all those lads, Ben Rama, all of them, they're not going to be there. Brentford are got a new stadium. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but some clubs are selling clubs, and unfortunately, Brentford's one of them because they need to do that to survive. So if they don't go up this year, they'll be nowhere near it next year. So it is their last shot at it, really, for a while.
Move on to Swansea. Swansea were in good form. We talked about Brewster and IU, and they've got obviously good play. Steve Cooper's got them working. They are scoring for fun. They are scoring for fun. How do you see Swansea doing in the playoffs?
Probably quite well if they keep the likes of Brewster and IU fit, because they're 2 top quality goal scorers at championship level, and goals are the most important thing. Defensively in the playoff games, I've got a feeling that probably of the 2 games, this one will be the one that's a more high scoring tie. And Swansea have got goals in abundance recently, probably with the exception of the Luton game, ironically. So you have to think they're going to do well. They're dark horses, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of said off camera that I genuinely think they'll be the ones to go up. I'm not doing that to sort of be like Adrian Durham sort of sensational. I genuinely think going into the look at the form table for the last 6 or 9 games, as you look at it, I think they're in the top 4 for that. Apart from that Luton result, everything else has been fairly comfortable for them. And I just think going into the playoffs, you are talking about form, and it is that momentum. I think they'll beat Brentford, definitely. We can obviously talk about the final a bit nearer the time, but it genuinely, in my sort of own belief, I think they'll go up personally. But yeah.
So we're going to do a quick prediction. Obviously, the 2 legs. Obviously, this one's obviously the first on Sunday. How do you see this tie going, Charlie?
Sorry, do you want both games or just the first one?
No, both games if you want.
Okay. I honestly think it'll be fairly comfortable. I think Brentford they'll come out early on, but if they don't get an early goal, I think Swansea will then sort of get into that rhythm that they've been into the last few games. I think the first leg will be 2-1 Swansea, and then a 1-0 Swansea win in the second one.
Cody?
I'm going to go slightly different. I think probably Swansea have been more exciting at times on the road since the restart, and they've got quick counter-attacking players. They've got a free-flowing style on the counter. I think at home it'll probably be a bit tighter, and I think Brentford will play a bit more resiliently and defensively as a result of that last game against Barnsley. So I think at home, Swansea will probably draw, maybe 1-1, 2-2. And then in the away leg at Brentford, obviously for Brentford, it's the final chance to get redemption at Griffin Park. It could have been the magical ending yesterday as we're recording, but it wasn't to be. So I think in the second leg, Brentford will need a goal late on, and they'll go chasing it, and Swansea will nick a couple on the counter. So I'm going to go 3-1 Swansea in the away leg, but I agree with Charlie. Swansea will get through if they score first.
No, I agree. It's just going to be a really tight one. I think the first leg, I think, will be more vital than the second leg, in my opinion, for this tie. I do think it'll be a draw. I think the first leg will be a draw. I think Brentford will take that. I really do. Just to gain that momentum again. Just to say, right, we've not lost a game. I think Swansea will be quite frustrated not winning because of the run they're on. So I do think the first leg will be 1-1. Second leg, this is going to be really hard. I said last game at Griffin Park.
It could go either way, couldn't it?
It really could. I would like to see Brentford in the final. But we know Brentford, before they lost in the playoffs recently in 2013, they had a chance in the last game of that season, missed the penalty, they're going to lose on the counter-attack, lose the title, losing the playoffs. It feels a bit of deja vu for them. I really do. But, oh, God. Right.
He's going to do it, isn't he? He's going to do it.
I think Brentford will nick this one 1-0.
Oh.
So Brentford will go in the final. Let's go on to the second tie, Cardiff versus Fulham. The first game is at the Cardiff City Stadium. Neil Harris done a very good job. He replaced Neil Warnock early in the season. We were quite disgusted that we're Neil Warnock fans that Neil Warnock lost his job. But you've got to give Neil Harris credit. He was at Millwall at the start of the season. Yeah. Fans were turned against him, and he left. He didn't get the sack. He left. He knew his time was up. Takes over the Cardiff job, does brilliantly with them, gets them into the playoffs. Your thoughts on Cardiff City this season?
I mean, you talk about that leaving Millwall. I mean, it worked out for both clubs in the end, really, didn't it? So, I mean, Cardiff, I think you saying he's done a very good job is probably an understatement. I think he's done an excellent job. I'm going to very early say Cardiff City on my tip to go up from the playoffs now, having seen the situation they've come into it in. And whatever happens, the winner of this tie will go up. But Cardiff, Neil Harris has done such a good job. They've won 3 on the bounce going into it. They're in the best winning run, and we know how much that can mean. But Fulham are unbeaten in 5 as well. So how on earth do you call it? It's still so unpredictable.
Charlie, going to Fulham, are they relying too much on Mitrovic?
Yeah, I suppose there is that. I suppose you could argue there's a certain element of being one-dimensional. And I think when they've gone fairly heavy in terms of leaking goals. Not, they've obviously been in fairly decent form, but coming straight off that lockdown, it's a couple of heavy losses. So I think if once they sort of what's the word? Not capitulate, but they do the mentality of them. Once they let one in, it doesn't always go that way for them. So for me, in that sense, it's so vital that they get that first goal. I think in this. I honestly could see them crumbling a bit. I think, like you say, there is that one dimension of Mitrovic. You'd like to think they've got enough quality in that squad that if he's having an off day or he's not playing or whatever. But they haven't necessarily shown that since the lockdown. So I don't know really. It's a very tight. It's definitely tighter for me than the Swansea Brentford one.
Yeah.
These two teams played each other recently at Craven Cottage during the empty stadium fiasco. Fulham went on to win that game 2-0. So how vital is that for both teams to play each other, so knowing what each team is like?
I don't really think it's honestly that important at all, given the way the Championship's gone the last 9 games. Everyone's beat everyone. We've seen what have happened at the bottom. You mentioned earlier with Luton and Barnsley beating everyone. Teams at the top like Forest completely collapsing. I don't think... It's hard. You're tempted as a football fan to look at form, but I really don't think there's much in it at all. And that's really unique to say, I guess.
It's going to be a unique style of game. Cardiff a bit more long ball. Fulham like to play on the floor. So how do you see that game panning out, Charlie?
I think Cardiff are efficient, and I think that's you can never knock a team for being like that. And I do think that, like I say, if you can nick that first goal, and if you have, we mentioned about Wickham, really, not necessarily having these amazing individuals, but if you have a game plan, you know it inside out, and it's well drilled, which clearly it is for Cardiff. I think they were. I know you mentioned about not going into form, but since the 9 games of the lockdown, the table was done on that, they'd be 3rd. So they're no mugs recently. So I think they're well drilled. They know exactly what they're doing. That's, as Wickham proved, that's difficult to break down. And so I think if they can nick that first goal, I can only see it going in their favour, to be honest. I know you've got a bit of flair about Fulham, but, as great as Mitrovic is, 11 well-drilled players would always beat that. So, yeah, that's the way I see it for me.
So let's get a prediction on this tie, Cardiff versus Fulham. It's playing on Monday? Monday's
first. Okay.
Monday. So, Charlie, starting with you, how do you see this tie going?
No, I think Cardiff will be resilient at home. They're not going to want to lose that first leg. I think, if I'm honest, they'll be looking to hit Fulham on the counter. There's a bit more sort of onus on Fulham to go forward, I think, is probably the favourites going into it of the two. So I think Cardiff will nick a 1-0 home win, and I think they'll soak up a bit of pressure and hit Fulham on the break. So 1-0 in the first leg, and then I think they'll go to Craven Cottage, and I think there'll be a few goals, and I think it'll be 2-2, but Cardiff will go through.
Cody.
I've started the same as Charlie for quite different reasons. So I think obviously Fulham are going to probably try and dominate possession. Cardiff, once they get forward, they're efficient. I wouldn't call them long ball, but they're fairly direct. They very much utilise set pieces. And to be fair, Neil Harris has brought the best out of a Neil Warnock squad in the very Neil Warnock way, which you have to applaud. So I think, like Charlie, they'll nick a 1-0 from a set piece at home. But at the away leg, I can't see there being goals. And I know, considering there was at least 2 goals in every game on the final day of the season, that is a very strange thing to say. But I think the second leg will be the squeakiest, dirtiest 0-0 with 12 or 13 yellow cards. And Cardiff won't care because they'll scrape their way through to the final. And in my book, whoever wins this tie will win the final and go to the Premier League.
So you're both going for a South Wales playoff final, which that would just be absolutely incredible to
What a
see.
shame there's not fans there, though.
I know.
If that's the case.
It's not in Cardiff anyway, so it has to be in London. My prediction, right. So
Is he going to do it again?
We'll go the absolute opposite.
Essentially London versus Wales, isn't it? But yeah, go on.
I know. 2 derbies. We could potentially have 2 potentially 2 derbies. I didn't realise that until you said it. I think Fulham might. Do you know what? I think Fulham might sneak this away leg. To be honest, I think by the odd goal, I think it will be 1-0 Fulham. Second time, do you know? I think Cardiff might do it. I think Cardiff will go through to the final. I really do. I think away legs are going to be quite important in this, and we've noticed that for all 3 divisions. Obviously, Northampton benefiting from an away tie. Second leg, Wickham benefiting. So that's vitally important, I think. So, I think Cardiff will get into the final. I think they'll sneak a 2-0 victory away at Fulham. I really do. So Cardiff, Brentford final for me. You've both gone for the South Wales derby. And that is our prediction for the Championship playoff semi-finals. Let us know in the comment section down below who you think will get to the playoff final. We'll do a playoff final preview for that. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you can follow us on Twitter on this Football Free. And we'll see you next time.